Isn't it how you show up as an educator? I know if I come in and I'm stressed about something at home or something in my personal life or something that happened in the car on the way to work, if I don't come in settled and grounded, my kids feel that immediately.
Oh, and they're going to show up the exact same way that you are. So if you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, so too will your students become.
Is that true with high school as well?
Yeah, the energy kind of passes on and they can feel it, right? Sometimes we say fake it until you make it, but kids can feel and hear and see, and they see past what you're trying to put on.
Right.
So funny to hear you say all these things, because I feel like in high school, and even I'm sure some middle school teachers will be like, oh yeah, it's like really similar. Really, really similar. We're just framing it in a different way.
Yeah. It's literally the same. It's just a differentiated approach to how we use language to have them understand what does it mean to create a community where we're supporting each other, where weere able to learn, where we are empowering ourselves to be our best selves and thrive together. Like that's literally at the core of what, quote, classroom management, the way we see it is how do we build that sense of belonging together, like you said so beautifully, Chrizia. So it's that time of year again. We are headed back to school, and I could not be more excited to be diving into this conversation with the two of you, Chrizia and Kristy, two educators who I literally look up to so much. And we're going to be talking today about what every educator is thinking about right now. It's the beginning of the school year. What will classroom management actually look like? What will it sound like? What will it feel like in our classrooms? And the reason I brought the two of you onto the podcast again, because this is your second episode for both of you, is because when I've heard you talk about classroom management, when I've seen you, quote, manage your classrooms, I've never once heard you talk about what most people talk about when they're hearing the word classroom management, which is how do you discipline your students? How do you actually manage them? What challenges are we going to have to address? I hear you thinking about how do we collectively, as a classroom community, create the environment that we want to cultivate in this year together. And so Chrizia, you're California Teacher of the Year, and Kristy, you're a kindergarten teacher that also happened to be elected this year as the teacher union president. And we've got a primary educator and a secondary educator, and I'm just so excited to geek out with the two of you today so that all of the educators who are listening can feel like I finally have a sense of how do I begin the school year in a way that's going to not just manage my classroom, but that's going to set them up to thrive. So to begin, it's the beginning of the year. Both of you are literally like in the throe of it. So give me your 2-word check-in, starting with you, Kristy. How are you feeling?
I am feeling nervous and excited.
Scare-Cited.
Scare-Cited.
We love that. That's so,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you and most educators, I imagine, have that dual sense of, woof, yay, and ah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we really don't know what we're walking into,
Mhm.
at the beginning of the year, but, we're fresh off of summer, rested and ready to take on whatever's thrown at us.
Yeah, let's go. How about you, Chrizia?
I am excited and I'm a little nervous just to see how this year is.
So similar.
Yeah, very.
Amazing. Well, to begin the conversation around classroom management, because that's what we're going into today, I'm curious, when you even hear the word classroom management, what does it mean to both of you? And how has that shifted and changed and evolved since you first were taught what classroom management is? You want to start, Kristy?
Well, I mean, first of all, there was really nothing in teacher training about classroom management. I really don't have any memory if there was a conversation or a lecture on it, but
Which is the problem.
right. But classroom management to me always felt like, how are you going to manage your students? How are you going to control them, keep them listening and paying attention and learning? And so it always felt very constricting to me. Like, how am I going to force my kids to be quiet and listen? And with 5-year-olds, if anyone's taught primary, that that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh, absolutely not.
So it's shifted a lot, mostly since after I did the Breathe for Change training initially,
Mhm.
because, it brought into, all this social emotional work and really looking at the whole child and figuring out like what do they need in the moment. And it became less of managing students' behavior to figuring out what they needed and kind of fostering that classroom community and that relationship with them so that they could learn and thrive.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'd say, my teacher training, they did tell us, like, you need to have structure, you meet them at the door.
Mhm.
And so I got those little soft skills. And then I was always also told, like, you need to be really strict,
Mm.
right? And then you can start smiling in December.
Mhm.
And I'm like, smiling in December? Like,
What?
what? What? I can't keep that straight of a face,
Yeah.
right? And so when I struggled as a first year, second year, third year, sometimes even fourth year teacher, and I mean, even to some days when I'm not feeling fully myself,
Mhm.
there are days where I'm like, okay, how do we get through this day together? It was not the like structure that was getting me. It was, like you mentioned, the relationship and culture that we began in the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
right?
And also, isn't it how you show up as an educator? I know if I come in and I'm stressed about something at home or something in my personal life or something that happened in the car on the way to work, if I don't come in settled and grounded, my kids feel that immediately.
Oh, and they're gonna show up the exact same way that you
Mhm.
are. So if you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, so too will your students, like,
Mhm.
become.
Is
So
that true with high school as well?
Yeah, the energy kind of passes on and they
Mhm.
can feel it, right? Sometimes we say fake it until you make it,
Mhm.
but kids can feel and hear and see and they see past what you're trying to put on. So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, Kristy, you're not alone. 68% of educators say that, like, their teacher ed experience had very little focus on, quote, classroom management or how do I support the behaviors of my students, which is why so many of us walk into the profession. We're ready to go. We're ready to make a difference in our kids' lives. And then what? Like, I didn't know that different behaviors were going to show up in these different ways. And I didn't know my students were going to walk in with all these different experiences that are having them really struggle in school to stay present and focused. And I was taught science and math and how to
Mhm.
teach literacy and run my morning circles, but no one ever taught me how to address the different behaviors that were showing up. And I think I remember my teacher education experience was similar to yours, which was very much focused on like structure, and you need to do everything the same for every kid, and everyone needs to be quiet, and you need to discipline to keep them
Client.
focused.
Mhm.
Compliance. And over the years, I've just come to realize no, we've got it backwards, and I know all of us have that similar shared view, and so I'm curious, if you could talk more about how your perspective has evolved, like, what do you see classroom management really being about now?
I see it's all about really kind of getting to know your audience. Like you have to know who you have in front of you. And the
Mhm.
only way you can do that is to get to know them and really become good at listening
Mhm.
because we don't know who's coming into our classroom. We might have a list and a roster with the names on it, but we don't know who's behind those. We don't know what their family life is like. Like you said, we weren't taught that kids are going to come in with trauma, with, just life
Mhm.
experiences, with family stress. We weren't told all of that, so we didn't realize that, you can come in and learn how to teach reading or teach math, but all these kids are coming in with different experiences, and we
Yeah.
have to be able to support them, and we're not taught how to support them, and so that didn't come for many, many years for me, and it's evolved over time. You'll get, um, suggestions from teachers and from people, that's mentoring you on how to handle it that maybe were trained, so many years ago that it's kind of more of an old school approach to it
Mhm.
and more about compliance to, really beginning to look at, okay, this is this child has come in with this child has come in with that, and just getting to know them. And so for me, the morning circles are really important because it's not just a matter of like, how are you feeling today? It's like, who are you?
Mhm.
You know, who's in your life? Who takes care of you?
Mhm.
What did you do yesterday? What do you love? What makes you scared? What makes you sad? Just taking the time to get to know all of those things really does help with classroom management because it gets me to know all the students, and then I know how to support them,
Mhm.
and they feel seen and heard. And that I think is just really critical in the beginning.
Mhm. Do you have a similar experience with the older students?
Yeah, I think, whether you're in an elementary school, preschool to high school, even to adults, right? We talk about like at the end of the day, I think people just want to be seen.
Mhm.
They want to feel like they're being heard and they want a place to feel like they can belong.
Mhm,
Because yes, we have to be at school, but why should we go to a place where we don't feel those things? Of
mhm,
course, you're going to act out or have an aversion
Mhm.
to a place that doesn't feel so welcoming, right? And then I think another piece that I think about is just having that ownership. I know there is like kind of that fine line of, yes, there's respect that goes both ways. And at the same time, it's like if students can have that buy in and that ownership of like, these are the expectations, or the way I think about it is I tell the students, these are the expectations we have in the classroom.
Mhm.
Now, what are our agreements that we would like to have?
Mhm.
Right. And so before we do learn any math, I ask them, like, what is distracting for you when you're in a math classroom? What helps you when you're in a math classroom? Like, what does it look like when we are having good teamwork? What does it look like when we don't have good teamwork? And the students list out the things that, when I have my phone out, that can be distracting to
Mhm.
others, or when I'm doing all the work by myself and my other teammates are just free writing on me. And so they are really having that conversation piece in their small groups and getting a chance to talk about something that they can kind of build their space.
mhm.
And like you said, different students come from different backgrounds or spaces or what they're used to and what their norms are. But when they come into my classroom, at least, I try and have this kind of level of playing field where, well, this is what we're going to do in F15, right?
Mhm.
And this is what it looks like to be a good teammate. And this is what it looks like when it's like not being a very good teammate. And so when it is a little bit squirrely, I point to the wall and say, hey, like these are the agreements you guys made. Like
Mhm.
I didn't make these.
Mhm.
These are my non-negotiables. Like we're gonna be safe, you know, where our hands are to ourselves and all those things. But all the agreements that you guys, these are the things that you have come up with. And so having yeah, like I didn't write these words down. I just kind of played wordsmith, but at the end of the day, these are the things that we have all agreed to, every single person. So period 2 might look a little bit different than
Mhm.
period 7.
See, and we do the same thing in the lower grades but we do it more, you draw it out. So, you have a T chart. What does respect look like and what does it sound like? And so I'm getting information from the kids like, what do you think when you're speaking, what does respect look like to you? First, you have to teach them what respect means because a lot of them don't know. How do I how do I teach what respect looks like? Um, a lot of it with the younger one is that you have to give them the words, so we'll, act something out. I'll model something with them and, have one of the students that's, just really gung ho and ready to go stand up and talk with me and they'll be telling me a story about something. I'll interrupt them and we'll say, well, now was that respectful? No, respect means, one person talks at a time. Respect means that, if someone's talking, everyone else is listening. Put on your listening ears, we'll do things like that, but I'll have them, um, kind of, I'll give them ideas, then they'll feed it back to me, and then we'll write that and I'll draw a picture so that they can say, what does it look like? What does it sound like to be respectful, to be kind? We'll list out different things. And so then we'll use those anchor charts up and refer back to those when someone is, oh, are we, does this look respectful? Does this sound respectful? Let's look back at what you came up with. These are our class agreements. This is room 106. This is what we do here at our school.
You're bringing me back to my pre-K days when I used to start school almost the exact same way. And I remember bringing my kids into a community circle on the rug and being like, what do we want our classroom to look like and sound like and feel like this year? How do we want to be together? And like the kids would raise their hand and I want us to be kind. Well, what does that actually look like? And they would give these examples, just like what you just said. And I think the one thing that I remember is like, it doesn't stop at just writing them up on the
Right.
wall. You have to consistently come back to them over and over and over again. And sometimes you might come back to them and be like, is there something we missed?
Hmm.
Because a situation surfaces
Yeah.
that causes challenges, and then you have a conversation about it. Has that how you've dealt with it in high school?
Yeah. I go back to, okay, here's our agreements and then here's our expectations. And we go through let's, keep the small things small, right? Like the expectation in this classroom is we have a pencil out and we're ready to go. And when they're not ready to go yet, I'm asking like, hey, do you need me to get you a pencil or do you need me to help you find a pencil or do you have one? And it's almost kind of like that forced choice of, okay, I want you to have a pencil or not I want. The expectation here is for you to have a pencil out.
Yep.
Are you getting it or am I getting it? Or am I directing you? And it's like these constant redirections. And like, again, small things small. And so we go through these in the first couple of days of school. Like, let's just keep the small things small. Right. And then I give them an example of, I ask you to put your phone away. And then now you don't want you to put your phone away. And then, I take it into this like huge escalation. And then I'm like, now we've got a big problem. And now I got to call somebody to help me out. And I don't really want to call this person because, we could have just put the phone away or
Mhm.
I've asked you twice now. Now the choice is the phone going on my desk or the phone's going in your backpack. Like what, kind of empowering them and giving our students choices.
Hmm.
I was reading David Year's book, right? And it talks about 10 to 25-year-olds and, you know, our students just want to have a place of belonging and to be seen. And they're very much so motivated by their status, right? And so if I'm embarrassing my student and that's like my classroom management style, I can't do that right off the bat. But if I have a good rapport and a good relationship with my students and we
Hmm.
kind of joke around that way, I'm like, so do I need to call your mom right now? Or like, what's happening? But again, from the get go, I'm not doing this day one and I don't know them because you don't know how that's
Right. That might be
Totally.
very triggering.
right. And they're like, what? And so just, I think it goes always back to, do we know our students?
Hmm.
Have we built that relationship? And then at the same time, having that expectation for them and showing them and saying, hey, I'm giving this feedback because I know that you can get there. And then giving that feedback, right? And then just redirecting them
Hmm.
to what's best for them.
So similar in the primary grades. It
Unbelievable.
really
It's
is.
it's literally the same. It's just a differentiated approach to
Hmm.
how we use language to have them understand what does it mean to create a community where we're supporting each other, where we're able to learn, where we are empowering ourselves to be our best selves and thrive together. Like that's literally at the core of what, quote, classroom management, the way we see it is how do we build that sense of belonging together, like you said so beautifully, Krisha. And I'm curious, both of you have talked about relationships already, like multiple times, and how it's about building relationships. And that's really at the core of effective classroom management. And so, talk to me about what's happening in your classroom. Like, how are you specifically building those relationships from the very beginning, from the day your kids are walking into the classroom? What are you doing? Yeah.
I do the same thing every year. So they come in for orientation on the first day of school.
Mm.
And so they're standing outside of the line with their parents. The
Oh,
first thing I do is I hand them a little chalkboard that says, my first day of kindergarten. And I take a picture of them with their family in front of the classroom.
oh,
So
so
I take the
cute.
and that picture then is printed and put in a frame that I help them decorate throughout the first week of school. And that's hung up on the wall for the entire year. So they have a picture of them with their mom or dad or family or grandparents, whoever brought them to school. So that's the first thing. I include the family. If the family will sometimes stand aside. I'm like, no,
No.
we're a family. Come take a picture. And then, we'll go inside the classroom. And so that first day, I'm setting up my morning circle. And, I've talked before about the little emoji cards that I have with their, how they're feeling. But it goes beyond that. I mean, the first few weeks of school, it's literally asking them not only how do they feel, chill, but if they start talking about, something, their family, "Oh, my mom is gonna have a baby," or "My little brother did this," or "My big sister did this," I ask them their names. "What's your big sister's name? How old is she?" Or,
Mhm.
"Oh, when is your mom having the baby?" Or, "How many brothers and sisters do you have?" I ask them questions to get to know their family, and throughout the course of the year, I'll say, "Oh, how's, Johnny doing?" And just being able to connect with them, that they know that I care about their family, I know who their parents are, is a really important part of building that relationship because they know that I care about them. I care enough to know about their family, and I'm much better with kids. Like, I will forget adults' names, but kids'
Oh,
names I will remember. But just
absolutely.
getting to know them and their families, and bringing them in and bringing the families in at various points during that this throughout the school year to have them come into the classroom to, do a gallery walk or to, the social gatherings that the school will have, just getting to know their families. And that sets up my relationship not only with the student, but their whole family. And then it goes on. So as they get older and then new siblings come in, I have relationships with my families. And the kids are in high school and college already, but they come back and visit, or they'll come back when they come for graduation.
Mm, so
And
sweet.
it's that relationship that I've built not only with the student that's in front of me, but with their entire family. And it takes effort
Mhm.
and it takes time, but it's so worth it. And it buys back time.
What happens for the kids when you ask those questions? When, I'm 5 years old and my teacher is coming to me and saying, like, "Tell me more about your family." Like, what happens for them in those
Well,
moments?
like you mentioned in your podcast about how your second grade teacher like knew how to pronounce your name.
Mhm,
It gives a child a sense of somebody cares about me.
mhm.
I don't know this person, but she cares about me.
And research shows that it only takes one adult to transform the life of a child. And it might not be that every one of our kids has that one adult that is safe and supportive and really there to set them up to thrive in life, and that might be you.
A
And
couple
f
of years ago, the school counselor came to me and said that they were asking this one student, a former student of mine, probably they were in third or fourth grade by then, and they were really struggling with their mental health. And they were in the counseling office, and they said, "Is there an adult here at school that cares about you that you could go to when you need something?" And he's like, "Oh, Mrs. Herrera."
Mm.
And they came back to me, and it's just like that made me feel so good because that's my goal. Yeah, my goal is to teach them how to read, but my goal is to be that person for them if they need it later on, and just to know that someone loves them.
That's your why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in high school it's similar,
Mhm,
right? Like you said, it takes a lot of effort
mhm,
and it does look a little bit different in middle school or even in high school because we have so much more students.
mhm,
And so for me, I have my students fill out surveys
mm.
and they tell me who should I contact when, you've done something positive. And so I
I love
try
that.
and give them a call or even give them a message, even if it's the smallest thing to send something home. It sounds really juvenile or it sounds so silly and elementary. But I mean, as an adult, and when someone kind of gives me those kudos, like, oh, like,
Yeah, we all like to be patted on the back,
Everyone
don't
wants
we?
affirmation,
Yeah,
and no one
yeah.
asks that question, Krisha.
I
That's
love that.
like,
incredible.
Yeah.
who do I need to call when I'm doing something well? And then at the same time, it's who do I need to call when you need a little bit more support?
Mm,
Sometimes it's the same guardian caretaker, but sometimes it's different,
Mhm.
right? And then I also like to have the buy-in from my families or caretakers, whoever is in charge of the student, and I give them homework and I ask them,
Mm.
tell me about your student. And I say, please don't use AI. You can email me. It
Are you
can
saying that, Christy, to your
No, no, I'm not saying that yet.
I mean, so
Not
not
yet.
Not yet.
I'm not trying to judge a parent or caretaker's writing skills or
Mhm.
like I don't need it to be something amazing. And some of my students are like, my parents don't speak English or, it's in a different language. And I said, put it in whatever language is comfortable for them.
Mm.
I will translate it or figure it out
Mhm,
Yeah.
myself.
mhm.
But the gist here is I want to know what whoever's in charge of you, how they see you
Mhm.
and they can
Oh,
share that with me. And so, like, what are their struggle or what do they think their struggles are for the student? So then I can kind of be aware of it a little bit, or like kind of use that as like, let me keep an eye on that and see,
Mhm.
right? So it lets me see the lens from their home life.
A different perspective. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be their parent. Sometimes it's their sister, or it's just someone that's in their corner for them.
You're bringing me back a couple years ago when at Breathe for Change, I had an executive coach and he led this 360 review of me where he asked, like, who in your team should I talk to? Who in your family should I talk to? Who, like, personally, your friends should I talk to so I can better understand your strengths, your areas for growth from a different perspective.
Mhm.
And I remember at first feeling like really threatened by that, like, oh my God, nervous. Like, what are people going to say about me? And I was an adult at the time. But going through that experience and then getting the feedback from the people who love me was profound.
Wow.
And I know set up all my teammates to help me do better as a leader. And I imagine that's exactly what's happening in your classroom with your kids. It's like, wow, she cares that much about me that she's trying to really understand how I show up, what I struggle with, what I am so amazing at. Like,
Yeah.
and oh, that's incredible. How does that impact your students and you as a teacher?
It really lets me understand the student better. And, I give the parents like, okay, you've got like a month to figure this out or like to email it back to me
Uh-huh.
or handwrite it or however. Cause they're like, what? What do you mean we have homework? And I was like, yeah, everyone has homework.
We're
Like
in it together.
let's buy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it shows a couple things. It allows the parents to see that, I am not here just to teach your child about math. Like there are some things that I want to throw at you and like I want to show you that I really do care. I'm not saying, it's easy because yes, very time consuming. You can have 160 kids and those are a lot of letters. Not every parent or caretaker does take the time to do it, but those I know I need to reach out differently
Yeah.
and meet them where they're at, right? So yes, it takes a lot of effort on my end, but with the use of AI, you can get some help that way, right? Um, but at the end of the day, the core is just like, I'm showing you my strength
Yeah.
and how I want to build this culture and how I want to navigate this year with you.
Yeah.
And so, like, come on the ride. And so that we can work through it together.
And how are you using AI in this process? Are you using it to help you come up with questions to ask or like analyze the data just out
Yeah.
of curiosity?
Yeah. Analyzing data. So, back to kind of like, how do I build that culture? Um, every day, students are asked, how are you feeling? Give me the mood meter. Choose a word in the mood meter, right? And you can see in
Love
which
that practice.
X and Y axis because I'm like, oh look, you guys math, right? Yeah, gotta throw in math there every single time. And then I ask them like, how was your sleep? How did you eat? Did you not eat at all? Is there anything else bothering you? And I will still read every single data point, but then I'll throw all those entries, right? 160
And it's
sometimes.
happening in the first few minutes.
First 5 minutes. And then at the end of the day, I'll throw all that, like all those entries, throw it in there. And I said, find me some patterns. I mean, I can do that, but sometimes AI is just a little bit faster, right? Like, give me some trends, give me some things. And then at the end of every lesson, students are self reflecting. So, first 5 minutes, last 5 minutes, I'm asking them, like, how did you feel like a student today? Were you productive? Was there anything that got in your way?
Wow.
Is there anything that can improve from me as a teacher? What feedback can you give from me? Sometimes they're like, oh, give us more mindful minutes the whole period. And so, of course, I'm
Music
taking
to my ears.
Yeah.
I'm using some of their feedback, right? But then also it's like a self-reflection piece for them so that they're aware of how were they as a student today? What were some things confusing for them? So it's touching on content and just their whole being.
That's such a great skill to teach kids
Oh,
because it's like doing like the morning check-in and then the end of the day check-in as well.
it's reminding me of how in our Breathe for Change trainings and our master's program, educators always come in. They're like, I know that like the social emotional aspect is super important, but like I don't have time for it. Like I need to teach math or I need to teach science or whatever it is. And I always say, this will buy you back time. You're spending 10 minutes out of a how many minute period?
50 minutes.
So you're spending 20%. Did I do the math right, math teacher?
Don't ask me.
Let's see. 10 out of 50 is 20%, right? Yay! Okay. So you're spending 20% of the minutes that you have in reflection with your students, in getting to know your students more deeply and having them get to know themselves more deeply and having them build deeper rapport with you, all the things. And do you find that you are gaining back time in your instruction?
Yeah. I mean, we're building structure, right? It allows me to take attendance.
Mhm.
And then it also allows me to see which student really needs that extra push. There's a section where it's like how, because it's all in Google Forms, which I'm more than happy to share with you.
Great. We'll
If
share it
you
with
want,
everybody.
but
Krisha's model, her template.
there's a section of like, is there anything else you need to know? And within the first week or 2 weeks, there are some things that I would have never knew that they just need someone to listen to, right?
Mhm.
They just need to get it out there. And I'll put on a quick Post-it note, like, I'm here to listen if you want to talk about it a little bit more. And I'll just drop it really discreetly onto their desk as I'm moving on to the notes or whatever else we need to do in that day. And then it's like business as usual, but I'm still being able to give them that kind of one-on-one that it's really hard to do when you have 160 students.
Right.
Totally. It's that is so powerful, that one-on-one attention that both of you are, like, so committed to giving each and every one of your students. And I'm curious, like, when you are starting the year, you're putting these structures in place. You've got your morning circle, you've got your, like, beginning and end of, period reflection. Like, what's happening outside of those structured times where you're engaging in this reflective work together, where you're, like, intentionally cultivating belonging? How are you continuing to build those relationships?
I mean, with kindergarten, I'm their school mom,
You're their school
In
mom.
fact, they call me mom sometimes, like, "Mommy."
Mhm.
I'm like, "I'm not your mom, I'm your school mom, but, we're gonna call me Mrs. Herrera." Um, it's constant throughout the day. I mean, because they come in so needy, and some of them have never been in school before, and some of them have. So, I have all different levels of, maturity and levels of need with the class. And sometimes my morning circles will go, 15 minutes. Sometimes they'll go 30 minutes. It just it depends on how they're coming in. But throughout the day, I mean, I'm a hugger, and I know that some teachers are not comfortable with hugging their students, but in, the early grades, it's a little
Oh.
hard to not. And so they just know that they ask, I teach them how to ask for hugs. I said some kids, some people don't like to be hugged, or they need you to ask. So they learn how to ask, can I give you a hug? Can I give you a hug? And then just, it's just constant all day long. I mean, it's making sure that I touch base with as many kids as I can. It's getting on their level. It's getting down so that I'm as tall as they are and looking in their eyes. And sometimes it's just looking in their eyes and asking them, what do you need right now? Or how are you? Or, why did you do this? Like, tell me what's going on. Just giving them that one-on-one eye gaze. I don't know. I don't know if it's just kids. Sometimes, their parents are really busy, and they can't give them that. And it's hard with 28 kids, and everyone's got different needs, and there's curriculum to teach, and there's, schedules to meet, and there's transitions to teach them, and there's, how do you use the materials? How do you use a glue stick? How do you, what do you do in your pencil breaks? What do you do
Mhm.
when, you knock something
Life
over,
skills.
you pick up, I mean, all these life skills in the early grades, you have to be very, very explicit and teach them and model and show them over and over. And throughout the day, there's just that constant check-in with as many as I can. And it's challenging some days because there's a lot. But when I do give them the time, I always try to get on their level and look in their eyes and just give them that, make them feel like they're the only one in the classroom.
Ugh,
And that's hard,
Yeah.
but it's so
it makes
necessary.
such a big difference. I
Mhm.
mean, I think about, Aaliyah and Zoe, Aaliyah's gonna be in kindergarten
Oh,
this
I can't
year.
believe
I
that.
can't believe
Forward.
it.
Ugh.
Oh, I want her in your classroom.
Oh, I love it.
And, at home, when I'm distracted thinking about a million different things and trying to navigate work and life and social and all the things, it's like all of a sudden there's like a tantrum and I can't even get to the bottom of it. And the second I just stop everything and I'm present with her and look her in the eyes and I tell her, I love you, everything else just sheds. And it's like kids just need to know that they are loved, that they are seen, that they have a place in your life, that
Mhm.
they matter. And I think that's the essence of what school needs to be for our kids
Well,
and
and
what
it's looking at their behaviors and not looking at, why are they behaving this way? Sometimes teachers think, "Oh, they're just acting like that just to get under my skin," or they're just doing that on purpose
Mhm.
because they know it's gonna, piss me off or whatever it is. But there's a reason behind all of their behavior, and it's taking the time to figure out what is that reason.
Mhm.
And like you said, being present, showing them that you care enough to stop even if the rest of the room is in chaos,
Yep.
and just say, "What do you need?" And I have a calm down spot, so there's a spot where they can go if they need to have a moment, and I
Mhm.
teach them how to use that, and we explicitly go through it's not just because you wanna play with the fidgets that are in the spot, it's because you are feeling a certain way, you're
Mhm.
sad or you're angry or you're lonely, and so you wanna go sit there, and they have a timer. So I teach all of these things explicitly at the beginning of the year so that they know when they can use it and why they would need to use it.
Mhm.
And then they just know that, okay, well, when that person's done and comes over, then it's that person's turn. And so they learn how to do that, but just being present and finding out why is that behavior
It's
coming out.
funny to hear you say all these things because I feel like in high school and even I'm sure some middle school teachers will be like, "Oh yeah, it's like really similar."
Mhm.
Really, really similar. We're just framing it in a different way. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? When a student is having so much emotion and they can't name it, it's like, "Okay, can you like take a moment and step outside for me really quickly?"
Mhm.
Right? And again, back to the like what research says is they don't want to be embarrassed,
Yeah.
right? We're all seeking status in some way. And so if you're like, "Hey, like, don't do that right now." It's like, now all the attention's on them for
Mhm.
negative behavior, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like, one time I actually had written a Post-it note, and it was, like, something silly to a neighbor friend,
Mhm.
put it in an envelope, and I was just like, "Hey," I could see that they were getting a little bored or squirmy, and I was like, "Hey, can you go take this to, like, so and so really quickly?" And that they just needed to reset really quickly, and they came
Yep.
back, and it was, like, good. Just being able to have those different things in your back pocket
Right.
Totally.
and seeing kind of being proactive
Mhm.
instead of reactive,
Mhm.
For sure.
right? And then I know we talked about like the compliance piece and different things. And yes, we still need to have these expectations. But then sometimes I feel like our students can't name what they're feeling or going
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
And so back to that self awareness piece. Okay, like we've identified it just
Mhm.
because we're not feeling well or whatever. Like we can't be an a hole or all day or like be meany, right? And I try to explain that and be super real with them.
Yep.
Like, we're everyone's going through something, and we can't get into this like comparison piece of like, well, my day's worse or I'm going through something worse. It's like we're all going through something.
Mhm.
So we have to treat each other with like kindness. And at the same time, like just because we're going through something, that doesn't mean we can just wreak havoc or
Right.
Mhm.
whatever.
And that naming of emotions is so important. And, I do that in kindergarten where I teach them, to put a name to what they're feeling. So it's not just I'm happy, I'm sad. They over the course of the year learn, what disappointed and frustrated and
Mhm.
anxious. They learn all those things through, various books or, just conversations in our circle. But giving them that ability to name it is just going to help them as they
Mhm.
grow older to be able to self-regulate.
Yeah. What tools can I use that
Mhm.
I've learned from my teacher
Totally.
to figure out XYZ? And then on top of that is being able to name it and then say they had done something that is not ideal for our class. Like we still have to have some sort of consequence or expectation when they're not meeting it,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? It's not just like all
All
rainbows. Oh,
good.
we
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
understand. Like, yeah, it's like, yes, okay, you were tardy. I'm so sorry to hear that. But here's your, like, give me a reflection,
Mhm.
right? Like,
And what both of you are coming to is what a trauma-informed approach is. So it's like the distinction between this deficit question of what's wrong with you. And if we as educators approach our students as who are dysregulated or something's going on as what's wrong here,
mhm,
then they will see themselves as
there's something
there's
Something wrong
something
with me.
wrong with me.
Instead of saying, "What do you need right now?"
Exactly. What's happening here? What's going on? Like, what do you need right now? What support? is missing for you right
And kids
now?
that don't have the ability to tell you what they need, I'll say, "Do you need to sit in a calm down spot?
Give
Do
them
you need to go
options.
get some water? Do you need a hug?
Mhm.
Do you need a high five? Like, what do you need?" So I help them to identify what they might need because they can't put words to that yet.
Yeah.
And at Breathe for Change in our trauma informed teaching course, we have these 7 principles of trauma informed teaching, 2 of which you just named right now, which are offer choice and voice. So you're
Mhm.
like giving them different choices. And you both gave so many examples of how you do that in your classrooms, but also provide options. Like, okay, in this situation, you can do this or you can do that. You're not saying they can do whatever they want,
Right.
because that will obviously lead to results that none of us want.
And
That's
they're choices that we've decided are what
not
we want.
okay. And
Or
what we want.
right, what we want them to do. Yeah,
Totally.
Because
yeah.
also at the end of the day, like we are there to keep them safe and then also, have them progress and build their skills and be uh, that whole being or that better human being or,
Mhm.
you know, right? And so the non-negotiable of like, no, you cannot have this out like that. No, that is not an expectation that we have in this class,
Right.
right? Like sometimes I think, or at least in my earlier years, I felt like I wanted to be cool or I wanted to be um, seen as like that hip new teacher. It's like, no, I'm friendly with you, but I'm not friends with you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, my goal here is to keep you safe and help you. And we can't do that if I'm your friend,
Mhm.
right? So,
See, and I don't wanna be the cool teacher. I like to be silly and goofy, but then they know that, okay, now is the time to learn.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but, I'm able to, wear the stars on my head and be the silly teacher and put on music and have movement breaks. I mean, constant movement breaks with the primary grades. And I don't know how that works in the upper grades.
same.
Do you still do some of that somatic
Yes.
movement
We
and
we have our little, it's somebody's job in the middle of the period to tell me we got to take a brain break.
mhm,
And depending on how silly everyone was, on like, are we doing our breathing technique or do we need to move around or
mhm,
do we need to
Mhm.
give a high five to somebody? And you have to lean into your personality as well.
Yeah.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
what Breathe for Change practices are you introducing in the beginning of the school year? Like the somatic practices, the emotional ones, the relational? You said some breathing practices and mindfulness. What are you introducing from day one?
It's all of
All
them.
of
It's
them.
all of them, yeah. I
Give me your
mean,
top 5.
well, the relational.
Which breathing practices do you teach from the
Well,
beginning?
the breathing practices, we always do the 3 collective breaths, for
Yes.
sure, because I have a Hoberman sphere, and so I choose a wellness champion that, I teach to stand up at the front of the room and say, "Let's take 3 breaths." So they use the ball to take those 3 breaths, and the last one more time. And so they all, we do that from day 1.
I love that you
Um,
have a wellness champion as a job. Incredible.
and they all want to be that and the kindness ambassador. I've talked
Mhm.
about both of those before, but yeah, they all wanna be those. Um, and, the movement breaks, and we're doing the somatic all the time. We're getting up and we're doing, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. We're getting up videos. We're doing all kinds of, silly movement videos,
Mhm.
and just getting up and just moving around the room.
Mhm.
We'll do some sun catchers, and
Mm.
some basic like sun salutations, and the let's see, we're doing the somatic, we're doing the emotional, the cognitive, which I love is with Breathe for Change, not just so much the thinking and the academic part of it, it's
Mhm.
through creativity part of it.
Mhm.
And so we do that from day one too with, drawing and building, with blocks or with Play-Doh.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Showing gratitude,
Oh,
Mm.
gratitude. Mhm.
right? There's something that we can be thankful for each day. It could be as small as someone said hi to me or someone opened the door for me to as big as like, oh, I got a car or, like it could be in both extremes, but just practicing that gratitude every day.
Mhm. I found that in the classroom, just ending the day with an appreciation circle where you open up space for whoever feels called to just share what they're grateful for. And to your point, it can be about anything. What I'm grateful for about some friend in the classroom and how nice they were to me, or what I'm grateful for about the experience we just shared together that, you know, I got an A on the test, or like whatever it is, ending in gratitude and sprinkling it in throughout the day can be unbelievably powerful, both explicitly, like as a practice, like appreciation circle, but also implicitly, like the way that we acknowledge our students for behaviors that we see that are positive or supportive of the classroom, or, you know, just acknowledging the whole group and how they're showing up. Like these moments that we have in between can really shift the culture of a classroom.
And then also giving them a space or that ability to, who do you want to shout out?
The
Right?
peer cheer.
Right? And then on top of it, your proximity
Uh-huh.
helps a lot.
Say more about that.
So I like to teach with an iPad. I have my notes. I do guided notes. It's screen mirrored to the TV. And I don't know if it's just because I'm all about efficiency too. It takes time, for a kid to get up, go to the board, right? Go back and all those things. And so I'm like, how can I cut that out a little bit?
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, oh, here's an iPad. Let me bring in the iPad to you. You show me what you think, how to solve this.
Huh.
It's okay if it's wrong. It's okay. It's not. But I'm constantly circling and, I'm around maybe a couple steps away from everybody. And I might not be able to have talked to you that day, but I definitely have passed by you in
Uh-huh.
this 50-minute period. I'm not just here stationary at my
Mhm.
desk and I'm not saying like, hey, like listen to my notes, right? It's okay, I'm walking around, I'm seeing who's a little sleepier, who's too much, or who has a lot of
Energy.
energy, right? And those with a lot of energy, I'm giving them a job of like, okay, like, can you tell me what's next? Or, I'm asking them these questions to get involved in a productive way. And then my students who are a little bit sleepier, I just, make sure that I'm talking and walking around them and maybe my voice gets a little bit louder or I'm tapping them and I'm saying, you good?
Mhm.
And then leaning on their peers to just making sure that, hey, is everyone okay and have everything that they need?
Totally. It's the same almost that you talked about, Christy, with you're going up to every student, you're looking them in the eyes, you're sitting down with them, you're giving them hugs. It's like almost the same thing, just in a different context with
Yeah.
different aged kids.
'Cause
And
you're giving them what they need.
it,
Your kids don't need you to hug them or,
And sometimes they do, and I have to ask them, like, "Hey, do you want a hug? Like, you look really upset."
"Oh,
Or
I,
even if they're
I
angry,
love
I'm
that."
like, "You seem a little angry. Are you sure a hug's not gonna help you?" And then they're
mhm,
like, they, like, giggle or they're like,
Yeah.
"No, I don't need a hug." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm here."
mhm. It's so important to build that rapport. And both of you talked about awareness, like in the beginning. So much of the beginning of the school year is about cultivating awareness in your students. Like, how am I feeling? How is my body? What do I need right now? And I'm curious about, like, when you do spend this much time and energy and effort intentionally supporting your students in cultivating more awareness of themselves, what's the impact? What do you see shifts?
For my students, a lot of them are like, "Whoa, I'm so busy going, going, going,
Mhm.
doing, doing, doing that sometimes this is my only class where I can just pause
Mm.
or where it's kind of quiet or it's just a moment for themselves."
Mhm.
And, sometimes students kind of come back and they're like, when I'm really frustrated, I take a moment to just breathe for myself, or I go out on a walk and do a nature walk, or there's these little things that they tell me that they're doing to help cope with whatever stressors that they have.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I don't see it always in the school year,
Mhm.
but it's so awesome to see it come back.
Mhm.
Or they'll be like, "Oh, we were talking about you the other day." And I was like, "Oh, do you wanna tell me?" And they're like, "No, no, no, we use this, like, breathing exercise that we learn right before a test," or, when I was really excited or when I was, like, kinda thinking too crazy because I was too much in love or something like that. And some of my
Aw,
students are,
so
like, old
cute.
now that
Yeah.
they're in their relationships that they're moving forward, and I was like, that's really great." Like,
Mhm.
it was more for them, or at least for me, I think I wanna get to know them and I want to understand so that I can be an adult for them that they can count on, but I also want it for them,
Mhm.
right? Because I know how powerful it is for me
Totally.
when I journal or when I take the time for 10 minutes out of the day to just like meditate or whatnot. It is so impactful for my personal and professional life
Mhm.
that I feel like, I hope my students are using this.
For the little ones, I mean, a lot of them come in and don't have the structure or have never been in school. And
Mhm.
so having the ability to thrive around routines, I mean,
Mhm.
teaching them the routines, they really need they don't need a classroom that feels chaotic or that where they can't expect what's coming next. So
Yeah.
so setting those routines up and building those relationships early in the year also just goes hand in hand with the routine for the day. And so they know that they come to expect the same thing every day. And so there will be days like when we'll have, library first thing in the morning and we don't have time to do a morning circle. They'll ask to do that morning circle when we come back because they know that they missed that. So I intentionally make sure that I schedule those kind of specials now later so that nothing interrupts that. And so having and it goes back to classroom management, having the routines, having the expected consistent routines helps them to manage their emotions. It helps
Mhm.
them to self-regulate. It helps them to know what's coming. They're not surprised if a child comes in late. They know they just come in, grab their card, find a seat. Kids will move aside. They learn that this is predictable and
Mhm.
there's safety and comfort in predictability.
And predictability is another principle of trauma-informed teaching because
Right.
if you think about students or just people in general who've experienced trauma or heightened stress, over time, what's taken away? That sense of predictability,
Mhm.
unless the predictability is like really challenging circumstances over and over and over again. Like when we provide structures that are supportive, that's when we can open up space for more flexibility.
Mhm.
That's when you can get creative. That's when you can put on your crazy star glasses or whatever they are and be a goofball
Mhm.
because they know what's coming. They know where they are in their day. They know, I can trust this structure. So within it, then I can be fully expressed. I can be seen. I can be supported. And then you're setting them up to thrive.
And they will remind me
Oh,
if I have
yes.
forgotten to do something.
Oh, yes.
Teacher, you forgot to, choose the kindness ambassador. Teacher, you forgot to do this. I'm like, oh, you're right. We didn't have time to do that today. Let's make sure that we do it as soon as we come back from recess. So they'll keep me
Yeah.
on task too.
And I think you mentioned it about predictability, right? I think a part of classroom management is about consistency,
Hmm.
Mhm.
right? When a student is tardy and I didn't give them a tardy reflection or they didn't grab a tardy reflection and I didn't hold them accountable, that's when your classroom management kind of goes, because
Uh-huh.
it's like, well, what about that person versus that person,
Uh-huh.
right? And then also with that
Totally.
consistency, do they know the ladders of consequences? I guess you can say
Mhm.
it, right? Like, am I giving you the like that teacher look? Like, I need you to just get with me, right? And so I explicitly show them, like you were saying, you have to explicitly
Hmm.
teach your students. I think when the kiddos are older, you're doing the same thing.
Mhm.
What is expected in this classroom? Is
Mhm.
it that's your warning? Like me looking at you, like
Yeah.
that's it, right?
Or I
And
could just go,
right.
I'm like, oh, I know
And
that
they're
I
like,
need to
I
be
know.
sitting down because she got to three.
So what happens? So let's just say it's not all peaches and roses all the time. We set up these effective structures from the beginning. We're doing all the mindful practices. We've got our community agreements, and then shit hits the fan. What do you do in those moments?
I have a conversation with them. We'll say, this happened. You decided to do this. What happens to the rest of us? Like, how did that impact all of us?
Mhm.
Because you chose to do this. What could you do? How could you make a better choice
Mhm.
so that it doesn't impact everybody around you? Or I'll kind of bring it back to, your behavior or your choice that you made. If it just affected you, that's one thing. But if it affected other people,
Mhm.
is that really what we want to choose to do?
right? It's like, okay, I'm giving you this look. After I give you this look, now I got to come and talk to you. But now me talking to you is taking time out of the whole period. And now, it's disrespectful to the rest of the students.
Mhm.
Now, after I talk to you, like, do I have to escalate it? Do I got to call your parents or your caretaker?
The person that they wrote on the
Hmm.
Mhm.
Google form.
And then after that, it's like, now do I have to get like admin involved? Do I have to call someone to give you that extra support that you need? But there's still this like consequence of ladder. I'm having these conversations. Hey, let's step outside. Let's chat what we need to do, but I'm still going to have a consequence for you. Whether it's a reflection, whether you have to apologize to your teammates, or there's still some sort of accountability that they're going to have. And so a lot of my students tell me like, Ms. Dela Rosa, you're so nice, but you are so strict. You are so rigid. You are so hard. And I'm like, yes, but at least you know what to expect from me. Right. And then I'm like, okay, let's keep our small problems small. If it gets big, we're going to have to escalate. But if you throw a desk, I'm not just going to give you that look and say like, don't do that. Like I explain to them and I give them kind of these scenarios that it's not just like, oh, this ladder. It's like, sometimes I'm going to have to call admin right away because now the safety of everybody else has been hindered upon. And at the end of the day, like we are in a society and we are just trying to make sure we can regulate and work with one another. And it's not like Krisha's world or so-and-so's world. Like we're here all trying to work with one another and make the best of what we have. Right.
I'll even ask the students, like, what do you think should be your consequence? What do you think should happen now that you've made this choice?
Put it on
and see
them.
what they come up with. And they'll sometimes be much harder on themselves than I would have been. And then, or we'll take a vote. Like, do you think that, Ilana's suggestion to, lose her entire recess, do you think that's what should happen? And someone will say, no, she should only use 3 minutes, or yeah, she should lose the whole recess. And I'll say, well, that's a little bit harsh. I think, sitting down with me for 2 minutes at recess and we can have a conversation. And I also don't make my timeouts like, okay, you're going to go sit there and have a timeout and
compliance
think
way.
about what you're going to do. I'll go and sit with them and say, so what happened? What were you thinking when you did that? How do you think you could do that differently next time? What do you think you should do now that you know a better way to do it? And they'll oftentimes come up with their own way to resolve a conflict. And sometimes it takes me explicitly teaching them how to resolve those conflicts. The nonviolent communication is huge.
Oh yeah, those 4 steps of when you did this,
It made me feel.
I felt this
And I
because
need
of
you
my
to.
need for this. So would you be willing to do this?
Yeah.
And those 4 simple steps of naming what you observe, saying how you felt as a result, then stating what your needs were in the moment, and then finally, what requests do you have? It literally is a game changer. I used to teach those 4 steps in my classroom to my 4-year-olds, and I'd model it a million times first, and then I'd bring them to the peace corner to model it with me, and they knew that I would do the peace process, what we called it, in the peace corner. And at first, I was like, is this gonna work? And then literally within 1 or 2 months of teaching this explicitly and doing it with kids over and over and over again, I heard no more tattling, which is like the bane of existence of
Is the
every
tattling.
early childhood and elementary school teacher,
Yes.
and
Like,
perhaps
you have
middle and high school teacher too.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It feels like a lot of work in those first couple of months, but it pays.
It
Oh.
does. Absolutely.
My kids would come up to me and I would hear no more problems. I only heard solutions. Miss Ilana, you won't believe it. We solved our problem in the peace corner. Here's what we're going to do about it. It was magic.
At 4 years old.
At
And
4 years
I
old.
taught my kids the peace talks.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was really 4 steps. It was like, when you did this, I felt like this, so I need you to do this. And then I'd say, finish it with, one of the 3 H's, because Herrera, right? High five, handshake, or hug.
Why are you so cute?
And then
That's
they would solve
amazing.
it. So
It's incredible.
But I will say though that yes, that's the intentions that we have and that's what we try and navigate. But sometimes like it has to be a little bit, I don't know, punitive or it just is
if
gotta
the
be
behavior is really severe,
Yeah.
I mean, because we get
And also,
hair pulling and kicking and hitting and
It
things like that in
impacts
kindergarten.
other
Yeah.
people and can cause
Yeah.
harm. And as
Yeah.
an educator, it's our responsibility
Right.
to not have harm happening in our classroom. So in those moments, escalations need to happen.
right. But like I was saying is, you know, it takes that buy-in for the first couple of months. And then, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but it's smoother sailing for the rest of the year. But you have to be willing to stick with it and have that consistency and really build your systems.
Yep.
And if you've built that relationship with students, I know for the younger ones, they want to please you. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in the upper elementary. They want to please someone who loves and cares for them because they want to shine. They want to be,
I mean, it's back to that status, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if they're continuously being like demeaned or like being picked on, like, why would a person just want to act differently
Mhm.
if they're just going to be targeted in your
Right,
classroom?
right.
Totally.
So,
So, for all of the amazing educators who are listening, what advice do you have for them when it comes to just thinking about classroom management in this school year? If there's one thing that you can leave them with, what would it be?
Get to know your students, build those relationships. Take the time to get to know each and every one of them in some way, shape, or form with however you want to do it, but get to know them and be genuine because they can feel
mhm,
if you don't really
yeah.
care or if you're not genuine. And I also like to get to know their families and talk to the parents and communicate. Communication is key with the parents and the caregivers, but getting them to buy into what you're doing in the classroom. But first and foremost are those kids in front of you, that audience in front of you. Get to know them and be genuine, and they'll perform for you. You know, they'll be there for you. They will show up if they know that you're there for them.
So beautiful.
Thank you, Krista. Like, that's, yeah, right? Like, it starts with the culture.
Hmm.
It starts with your culture and then consistency. How you show up for your kids and making sure that they know what to expect
Hmm.
and that predictability.
Hmm.
Culture and
Culture and
consistency.
consistency and connection.
Yeah.
The 3 C's.
Oh, oh, I love it. You know, I love a good acronym or anything that has the consistency. Let's say it again.
Culture,
Consistency, connection.
connection.
Those three things. If you do that in your first day, week, month of the school year, I mean,
And don't give up after the first week,
oh,
day,
yeah,
month. I mean, just you have to keep consistency.
Yeah.
You have to keep
over
going.
and over and
Mhm.
That's
over
how you
again.
build community. Right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Community, 4 C's.
Community.
How many more
Critical.
C's?
Compassion,
Oh, yeah, we can. Oh
communication.
my gosh.
We're going to do a whole curriculum on just C's.
Krisha.
Go, Krisha.
I'm a K, so I
You're a
can't
fake.
really,
You're a fake C. Yeah, we could.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Kristy. Well, thank you both so, so much for sharing just your wisdom, your experience, your expertise. I know I have just loved getting to know you since your Breathe for Change trainings over the last decade and seeing you just take everything that you know to be true about education and bring it to life in your classrooms with the little ones and the older students, and then literally getting so many leadership opportunities, and people see you differently because of how you're teaching and who you are showing up as for your students. It's been such an honor. And I'm so proud of you for being the California Teacher of the Year and for you being elected the teacher union president. Like, oh my gosh, both of you this year because of the work that you're doing. You got both of those opportunities because of what you talked about today on this podcast.
So much of what we do with our students works with adults too. All of us just want to be seen and heard and respected, and we want that connection with each other.
Yep.
And that community and that culture in the school setting and outside. So I think it applies to everybody. Doesn't matter
Every
who
human
you are or
being.
how old you are.
And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you absolutely can find way more resources at breatheforchange.com. We have all these different free resources that you can access for the beginning of the school year. We've got our Masters of Education program, we have trainings. And so if you're feeling like, ooh, I need more tangible tools for myself after hearing these beautiful human beings talk about their experience, and we've got it all on our website, so you can check it out. And so excited for you to start your school year off strong and to put into practice what the two of you so beautifully shared today. So thank you both so much, and
Thank you.
good luck
Yes,
on the
thank you for
beginning of the
having
school
us.
year.
Thank you.
Woohoo! Let's go.